It all started as a rumor. The DRC government denied the presence of mercenaries on its territory, but as days passed, the truth gradually emerged. What was once hidden is now undeniable. The world has seen it unfold. The DRC enlisted mercenaries in its fight against the M23 rebel group. Recently, 288 of them were defeated in the battle and went back home through Rwanda. This story dates back to February of 2023, when reports surfaced that the Congolese government was using foreign fighters against M23. While Rwanda consistently pointed it out, the Congolese authorities dismissed it as mere propaganda.
Mercenaries are the most useless people you can name. Yes. You can rely on. So those countries relying on mercenaries, you just know they are in trouble. They have original problems before they brought mercenaries. And when they bring mercenaries, the problems are multiplied by a big factor. It gets worse, not better.
At the time, residents of Goma reported seeing armed foreigners staying at Hotel Mbiza in the city. Many suspected they were members of Wana, the famous Russian mercenary group. Curious about the allegations, we posed the question to Russia's former ambassador to Rwanda. He denied Wagner's presence in the DRC, but revealed that he had heard the mercenaries came from Eastern Europe. 3 years later, it is no longer a rumor. We arrived in Goma at the very building where these mercenaries had been staying. They had surrendered after being defeated by M23 and were escorted out of the country through Rwanda before returning home. At 6 a.m. on January the 29th, we reached the Laconige border post between Rwanda and the DRC. We were told that the mercenaries will be handed over at 10 a.m. We waited for hours only to learn that after surrendering to MONUSCO, negotiations were underway. M23 wanted them to leave the DRC in full military gear, given that they had been combatants. However, the mercenaries refused. By 3 p.m., they crossed into the Rwandan territory. Each one of them was thoroughly searched before being transported to Kigali, where they were later flown back to their home country. Some of them were wearing MONUSCO capes, raising questions about how a UN agency could allow individuals like this to use their insignia. This further reinforces allegation that during their time in the DRC, they were shielded by MONUSCO forces and even collaborated with them on a daily basis. All of them worked for Associatia Ralph, which UN experts identify as a Romanian enterprise composed of former Romanian soldiers from the French Foreign Legion. These mercenaries were reportedly paid around $5,000 per month, while regular Congolese soldiers earn as little $100 or sometimes go unpaid. Their contracts stipulate an indefinite period of service with 1 month break after every 3 months of deployment. One of them told us upon arrival at the border that he had been in Goma for just 2 weeks after arriving from Tunisia. He even showed us his passport.
You've been there for 3 weeks? Wow. I was in Tunisia last year.
In Goma, they were housed in Quatia-level cans in a luxurious 4-story apartment, one of the finest in the area. Inside, we found documents detailing their military strategy against M23, revealing plans to engage on multiple fronts.
I have a medical degree that I had in the French Foreign Legion for my time being in the French Foreign Legion, so I was an instructor on the medical part. It was a very short time in Rwanda. My experience was it was the war there, so we were refugees at the UN base, and then we came to Rwanda in order to be able to extract us in Romania, because the airport in Goma was closed. The conditions were well. The payment was made by the contract by the one who hired us, and I cannot give you the numbers because it depends on what we were doing. The terms were very simple. It's 3 months with 1 month off. We were contacted by Ajamira, so the company who contracted us.
I work for the company for this private company for a long time, like 13 years. Okay, and there was another project, like, as I said, trainers and training the National Army, the DRC National Army. When M33 approaching Goma, okay, we seek protection of UN in Goma. That's why, and they give it to us. As far as I know, the Romanian government, okay, my country, make a request to the Rwanda government to be here and to facilitate what they facilitate already.
J'ai été chargé par la préparation physique des soldats congolais. Je suis entraîneur de fitness, mon métier. Je suis sportif et préparateur physique. Donc j'étais en train de préparer les soldats congolais pour avoir un bon physique sur le terrain.
Ralph is believed to operate across Africa, with contracts mentioning several operational locations, including Burkina Faso, DR Congo, Ivory Coast, Niger, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Guinea. The presence of mercenaries in the DRC is not new. Between 1960 and 1965, the country became a battleground for numerous conflicts involving foreign fighters. One of the most infamous was Thomas Michael Hall, who along with his 4 Commandos unit, fought alongside Moise Tsombe in Katanga's Secession War, serving Belgian interests. In 1964, he returned to Congo as a military leader for Tsombe, commanding 300 South African fighters under the unit known as Wild Geese.
One of the things that people often ask me is what sort of men became wild geese in the Congo in 64 and 65 with Mike? And the answer is quite interesting. It's probably not what you would expect. Of course, Mike wanted trained men, military men who had had some training. And he was terribly disappointed when the guys got off the plane and not many of them had military training. And of course, he soon made them officers, and he himself trained the rest for a few weeks. Now, of course, they were all there for the money. But apart from that, what sorts were they? Of course, the one word to describe them all was adventurous. They were all adventurous, but within that category you'll find that some of them were hunters, some were rangers. They were all mostly outdoor lovers, and unfortunately some of them were criminals on the run, and there were even a very small number of wanton killers.
Meanwhile, in Kisangani, Pierre Mulele's Simba rebels had taken 1,600 hostages, including European missionaries. With the help of Belgian paratroopers, Cuban pilots, and CIA-backed mercenaries, Hall defeated the Simba rebels in what became known as Operation Dragon Rouge. Hall often claimed that wars could be won even with a choir of church singers. On July the 7th, Belgian mercenary Jean Schramm and his 120-man unit, alongside 2,500 Katangan fighters, took control of Bukavu, declaring the region as an independent state, État volontaire étrangers (EVE). Schramm aimed to overthrow Mobutu's government and avenge the deaths of Patrice Lumumba and Pierre Mulele. However, his rebellion lasted only 4 months before being crushed. Another notorious mercenary, Frenchman Bob Denard, first appeared in the DRC in 1961 to support Tsombe's coup attempt against Mobutu. He returned in 1964, this time fighting Mobutu's government alongside European and Katangan mercenaries. Even revolutionary icon Che Guevara once set foot in Congo, reportedly seeking to expand his movement from Argentina. The involvement of foreign fighters continued into the modern era. In June of 2011, then President Joseph Kabila hired Diane Coup, a US-based private military contractor known for deploying mercenaries to Iraq and Afghanistan. Kabila paid $17 million to train the Congolese army, better known as FARDC. Yet, history has shown that mercenaries have never brought lasting peace to the DRC. Instead, they have left behind devastation, plunder, and further instability.